Roger,
Ben, how
how
you
are
doing?
you?
Good, sir, and yourself.
I'm well, thanks. I'm well. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I hope this means we're live, so fingers crossed. If not, we'll just enjoy talking to each other.
Sounds good to me.
If someone there could give us a quick thumbs up that you can hear us, that would be great. But we'll get rolling. I'm really pleased to be joined by you, Roger. I think you've got an interesting story and quite a unique outlook on being a job seeker, but also the life of a recruiter. And I think it's important for our audience to understand, I guess, how they can put their best foot forward with a job search, but also work best with a recruiter. So we've got a few things to run through to cover all of that.
Sure.
I guess first and foremost, you're in the US, you're in Texas. Quite a few of the audience here will be in Australia. Hopefully, we've got some from the US here as well. But can you give us a bit of information about your background and how you ended up in the Salesforce world?
Absolutely. So straight out of the university, I joined the U.S. Army, and I spent 22 years in the military. So retired out, and the first 10 years of it, I spent as a field artillery officer, so shooting cannons, rockets, and missiles, all kinds of great things that young men like to do in their 20s and early 30s. But then after about 10 years, I transitioned over into a different career field because just looking long range, longevity, marketability, I wanted to get something that would offer me more concrete skills in the civilian marketplace. So I transitioned into a career field called modeling and simulations. So if you think about Hunger Games, right, there's the game master who controls the virtual environment that the players were in. So that's kind of what I did for the military. So I helped create virtual environments to help train soldiers so they can go on and do their missions. And then part of that, one of the other competencies that I had to do was knowledge management. And the knowledge management tool that the U.S. Army has is Microsoft SharePoint. So essentially, I was a lone SharePoint admin for about 7 years in the military. And then SharePoint having lots of similar processes and structures, workflows, data management, user management. That's very similar to the Salesforce ecosystem. So 2 years ago, I was getting ready, starting my transition out of the military, looking for different, what am I going to do when I grow up, kind of thing. When I got out, and once I started talking to other veterans on LinkedIn, so starting my connections, because prior to me getting out, I didn't really use LinkedIn. I had profile photo and a couple of things on there, but I was awful, to be honest with you. I was terrible about utilizing LinkedIn for what it's actually meant to do. But that's when I started looking around and came across Salesforce. And once I started, the more I dug into Salesforce, the more I realized that that was the ecosystem that I wanted to go into post military retirement.
Sure, and then obviously Trailhead Military played a big part in that.
Absolutely. So I found out. So back then it was called VetForce, but since last year Dreamforce, they've gone through the rebranding. So now they're Trailhead Military, and so Trailhead Military, excuse the dogs, is it's a phenomenal program for um, military veterans, active duty, and their spouses. And it's not just the United States. So it's the U.S., UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand as well. So for the viewers out there that happen to fall in that population, the Trailhead Military Program is available there as well. So I highly encourage to go out there. But they provided me free training or free access to. Of course, everyone does Trailhead. So most of the training is done via Trailhead, and then they provide a community there, a community of like-minded veterans and military spouses. Free vouchers for certifications; those are great. And additionally, so for me, I discovered Salesforce and Trailhead Military in 2018, and I was able to go to Dreamforce in November of 18. And it was fully funded by them. It was an amazing experience. Truly opened my eyes to what Salesforce is, what the ecosystem is, and the different kinds of career opportunities. And so really, they did a lot to open up, to expose me to the ecosystem and to expose the ecosystem to me, like let them know who I was. They hosted career fairs. So just tremendous opportunity through Trailhead Military. And then, since being in Texas, there's a Texas founded nonprofit that partners with Trailhead Military, called Maribus, and they're a lot smaller, they're a lot more higher touch, and I was able to go through some of their cohorts, get the Salesforce training, get the certifications, and they provided me a network of Salesforce professionals, to help really start propel my career, propel my entrance into the Salesforce ecosystem, because just like any job seekers, right? So it's all about it's starting to build your professional network, and it really helped me. Maribus really helped me to jumpstart that because it gave me a built-in network of people that I could start, getting help from and tapping into, and then as I grew older to help them out as well.
Sure. Yeah, and I think like we'll talk about the power of LinkedIn through this chat, but like I knew of you before your term in recruitment, and that was through LinkedIn, that was through personal branding. And I think that's something that we'll touch on. But how then did you end up in recruitment?
So I retired from the military last year. So September 1st last year was my first day as a civilian, that I was no longer in the military. So I was going through the job seeking process, and to be completely honest, I was going to be a Salesforce admin. I got my admin certification, got my platform app builder certification, and I was looking for jobs to go do, and I was doing informational interviews, sitting down with people in my network, people in the Trailhead Military network that would give me advice, as to what jobs do I need to be looking for, what skills, responsibilities, and I sat down with Stephanie Herrera, who is, who doesn't know Stephanie, right? Salesforce Saturday founder, Pep Up Tech founder, and Stephanie also happens to be a board member of Maribus, so that's how I got to meet her. So I sat down with her, and at the time, she was, or she still is, the VP of Salesforce for Computer Futures, which is an S3 brand. So they do Salesforce recruiting there. And I sat down with Stephanie and Danny Cohen, who's the VP of Computer Futures USA. And through sitting down with them, and really, I just wanted to learn from them because they're both extremely successful vice presidents. What do I need to do to become, get to the vice president level within 10 years? I don't have 20 years because I've already done 20 years in the military. How do I become successful in a compressed timeline? So I figured meeting with the people that have done it is the best thing to do. And in that conversation, they asked me, if I'd ever considered being a recruiter. And for anyone who's ever had any exposure or been in the military, especially the U.S. military, I'm not sure about the Australian military. Chances are it's probably pretty similar. But one of the biggest punchlines in the military community is that my recruiter lied. So basically, the recruiters will do anything and everything, tell you any kind of lies to get you, to sign the paper and to join up and sign up for the military. And it's a joke because there's some truth to it. Of course, not all recruiters are bad. I was a recruiter. I think I was a pretty good recruiter. You're a recruiter. You're an amazing recruiter. So first and foremost, not all recruiters are bad people. So let me just put that out there. But
Yeah.
that was my interpretation of what recruiters were. But in meeting with Stephanie and Danny, and for anyone who's heard Stephanie speak or had the chance to meet Stephanie, she's one of the most inspirational people that I've ever met. She does wonderful things, and they both have a vision of what they want recruiting to be, and I wanted to be a part of that team and help to make that vision come true.
Absolutely. So I think the key here is obviously you went into recruitment with a certain perception, and unfortunately not the best perception of recruitment. Where I want to add most value to our audience today is understanding kind of how best to work with recruiters, but also to really focus on their job search. And something that you said that I think really resonates and is really important is you were contacting people directly, like Stephanie, to sit down, have a conversation, have a coffee, and just ask for her advice and guidance. Like obviously that took you into recruitment, but that could have definitely taken you down another route into a Salesforce admin role anyway. But now that you have worked in the recruitment industry, how have you changed your approach to a job search? Like what do you do differently now that you understand recruitment better than what you were doing before?
So I would say probably couple things. So the biggest thing for me is now, having worked in the recruiting world, I understand how things are, well, somewhat. And so I would say probably the biggest thing is the job. So that, I'm and currently right now I'm a job seeker. So, I'm in between jobs, and we're all going through this COVID environment together. Some people being furloughed, some people are losing jobs. So, is it a horrible job market? Absolutely. Lots of anxiety and everything going on. But I would say the biggest thing is to, so like number one, as a job seeker, so own your job seeking. So it is up to you to determine, well, like, come up with your job seeking strategy. Like, what do I want to do? And it needs to be an effective strategy. You can't have a, like, the spray and pray job seeking strategy where you just throw a CV at every single job posting you see on, LinkedIn or Indeed, because that's not really going to work. You're going to send out 100 CVs and get nothing back, because lots of other people are doing that. So if you're doing what everyone else is doing, and they're not getting jobs, you're not going to get the job either. So it's really about, it's coming up with your strategy, and part of that strategy is using recruiters. So building your network, using your professional network, reaching out to people. Don't contact them and say, "Hey, do you have a job for me?" I would say contact them and say, "Hey, I would love to sit down with you and get some advice from you, because you're successful in the ecosystem. If they're solution architect, technical architect, senior admin, whatever it is. Hey, can I please have 15 minutes, 20 minutes of your time, because this is where I am. I would like to be, I want to be where you are now. How did you get there? Tell me your story." And then, they'll give you advice, and, you take the advice they give you, and then, thank them for the advice. And then at the end of the conversation, ask them, well, I really appreciate it, but who else should I be talking to? Who else do you recommend that I speak to? And so, one, that adds someone else that you can talk to and get advice from. And then the fact that that person took the time out to speak to you and give you 15 minutes, 15, 30 minutes of their time, shows that they value you enough, to give you their time, because time is one of the most precious things we all have to give. And then the fact that they're helping you now means that they may help you later. And follow up with a thank you note. Always send thank you notes. Gratitude oftentimes is overlooked. I even thank recruiters. And when I was a recruiter, I hardly ever got thanked by candidates, because it's very transactional in nature. But how do you stand out? Tell people thank you. Send people thank you notes. And then if they refer you to somebody else, then talk to that person, because you are building your network of people that want to help you. And especially in times like these, we need all the help we can get. I mean, there's lots of job seekers. There's some jobs we may or may not be qualified for. But if someone is in a company and they remember you, and they're like, "Oh, I remember. I just spoke to this person last week, and I think they may be a decent fit for this job," and they may reach out and send it to you.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think applying for jobs on a job board isn't a strategy. Like, it's part of a process, but it's not like that's not the only way to get a job. And I tell people this every day. I don't advertise any jobs on any job boards. Like, I never have. I've never placed someone by receiving an applicant through a job board. So I'm just one person, but there are multiple other recruiters that I'm sure do that as well. So even though you might be looking on a job board, you might be missing out on a whole load of opportunities by not having conversations. And when I get a role, my first thing is like, who do I know for this role? It's not who can I find for this role. It's who do I know? Who have I spoken to that ticks these boxes, or who have I spoken to that would be a good culture fit for this role, or is going to fit into the long term view of building their career but helping this company build as well. So yeah, unfortunately, if you're just applying for jobs on job boards, you're competing with hundreds of other people, and it's definitely not the best foot forward. The other thing I would say on your comment about reaching out to people, I think it's really important that you do reach out in the right way. Like you mentioned, you're asking for something, but you're being polite and you're explaining why. So like every day I wake up to messages and it just says, "Hey Ben, hey Ben, hey Ben." Like I have loads of them every morning. and I don't know what like obviously I presume they're looking for a job, right? But I can't go through every single one and say, hey, and then like the next morning I'll get a response. I think you have to be quite direct as well. Like you have to show what you want and show how this person can help you, because otherwise, they don't know what you're looking for.
Right. And then, so part of that too. So I kind of, I think of it similar to like, dating, right? You can't just walk up to somebody and say, "Hey, let's get married." Like that's not going to work. Chances are that has like a 0.1% success rate. So you have to get to know the person first. It's like, "Hey, how you doing?" Engage in some some banter, chit chat, and then maybe that leads to a first date, second date kind of thing. So it's about building relationships, and it's a little bit more difficult on LinkedIn, but nowadays everything's remote and everything's virtual. So it's just reaching out to folks. Initially, like, so what I like to do personally is one, like, find, follow and connect with like-minded people, and then I'll wake up in the morning and I'll look through LinkedIn and I'll see if they post something, if they post something that I find of value to me, then I'll throw a comment on there. It's like, "Hey, thank you for posting this article, very insightful." And then, because people, it's a social network. I mean, even though it's a professional network for LinkedIn, but we're all social beings. Like if I post something, then biologically I want to get the likes, and I want to get feedback, and I want to get responses. So it's human nature. That's how we're wired.
Yeah.
So, and then if I comment on, like you said, like so we've never met face to face, but we comment on different things, and then so we kind of start commenting back and forth, and then you start developing a little kind of like a little virtual relationship, virtual pen pals. And then so if I reach out, by that point, if I send you a few messages, and then I've sent you a few comments, and then I follow up with a message. "Hey Ben, enjoy chatting with you on LinkedIn. Would you be up for a 15-minute phone call? We'd love to get some advice from you on what you're seeing in the market today." And it's not the hey Ben, I'm looking for a job. What do you have? So
Yeah.
it comes across a lot better that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like there's a certain degree, like the word omnipresence, right? I think if you're seeing someone regularly, you kind of naturally trust them anyway.
Mhm.
Like you just build this natural trust, even if you haven't spoken to them. So we'd never had a conversation on the phone until this week. But I trust you. I trusted because I understand who you are through the content that you put out online, and I think like you can put yourself in such a strong position and become more of a magnet to opportunities than having to chase opportunities if you create content, right? So there's
Mhm.
one example, and I can't post this to the comment feed, but there's a lady called Pooja Ramesha. And we were speaking a few months back, and I gave her the advice to create some, like, a portfolio of work online, and she did. And I often tell people to do that, but rarely do people come back and say they've actually done it. So Pooja went away. She built a mini project. It was a business she'd called, I think, Acme Homes. She went away and built it, and then she posted about it. And then because she tagged me in it, and I felt, she's gone out of her way to do this, I then shared it. She got quite a lot of viewings on that, and this week I found out she got a job off of the back of that.
Nice.
So a company saw the post, whether it was mine or hers, I'm not sure, but the fact that lots of people were sharing and posting, and because she'd gone out of her way to do something and build some experience, that she now has a job. And I think that's also important. It's not just posting and commenting. It's having something, having a reason to post and having something that makes you different.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny that you talk about that, where she built something. So my wife was a school teacher, and um, one of the things, I'm studying for community cloud right now. So I was just in conversations with her, because obviously everyone's staying home and the school closures and all that kind of stuff. I thought, like, what can I do? How can I give myself a project to do hands-on experience using community cloud, because I need to get hands-on. Because I'm not working on a community cloud org right now, or instance right now. So I'm going to try to build out a community for my own little dev org that allows parents and teachers that are trying to look for, I don't know if you've heard, there's teaching pods where some families get together in small groups, bring in a teacher or somebody to teach their kids whatever it is, like a few eighth grade mathematics or English or whatever the subject is. So I'm going to try to build out, just build my own org using this use case, and it's great because I can tap her for the requirements, or she being an educator, so she can be my client and tell me, well, you need to build this, you need to build that, and then I'll try to build out the custom objects and then build out the community to allow for parents, who come searching for teachers, and then teachers who come looking for, you know, kids to teach. So there's different use cases, and of course, is it as good as having actual hard experience where I worked at company X and I managed this many custom objects and this many users and workflows and all the automation. It's not as good as having hard company experience for an enterprise level company, but it is something. So like for Pooja, she took her own initiative and went out and built this, and it was good enough. Showed that she's got the dedication and she's got the technical skill, and to put it out there, and eventually got herself a job.
Yeah, and it got her a job quickly. And I think, to your point, there are use cases everywhere. Like in everyday life, you'll see an opportunity where you could think, "Oh, I could build this in Salesforce." And yeah, like you said, it's not as good as having real kind of life project experience, but it's better to be able to show something than be able to tell something. So, like, just by saying I can work with Community Cloud, or I'm Community Cloud certified, that's one thing. But then if you can go to an interview and show this is something I built in Community Cloud, you've got so much more chance of securing that role, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So job specs, we get a lot of people that complain about job specs, and I'm really not a fan of job specs. But I think like we discussed this earlier in the week, and I think one thing that people don't understand is a lot of the time a job spec isn't written by the person that's maybe even hiring for the role, or sometimes they get rushed, they don't have time, they just find something on the internet, copy and paste it into their own company headed paper. So what's your view on job descriptions?
So yeah, I mean, you're right. It's when I was a recruiter, I would get these job specs from hiring managers, and I would look at them, and then of course, as trying to be a good recruiter, I would ask them, try to push back on some of the things that I knew were probably going to be either a tough sell or tough to find. But sometimes hiring managers like, oh no, this is what I want. And so I would take the job spec and then go try to find the candidates that I thought would match best. Never did I find a candidate that matched 100% of the job or job requirements, because sometimes they're just they're too lofty of a goal, or just like you said, like they're kind of cut and paste. But that's not for the recruiter to figure out. And then I would send the job spec to people, and they were like, why are you sending this to me? And and I know, like, there's people that have gotten jobs that they like, no, I would probably hazard a guess to say that it's a small percentage of the population that actually matches every single job requirement that's written on there on the job spec.
Yeah.
So so really it's matching the best people, matching the people up. And I've had instances where I sent in 3 candidates for a job spec, and then I get feedback after the interview. It's like, Roger, this is not what I was looking for. Well, it's like, this is what was on the job spec. This is what we discussed. And like, well, I'm actually looking for this. And then it comes out that they were, even though it was written that way, this is what they're really looking for. And then it's back to the drawing board and finding more candidates.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of like, I think of it, it's like it's like if you're at a restaurant, like the candidates, so the recruiter is the waiter, right? So I hand you the menu, and then, okay, this is what I want, and then go to the back and I bring you the food. Okay, this is here's the meal you ordered, and they rarely get angry at the chef. They get angry at the waiter. Like, why did you bring this to me? This is undercooked. So being the recruiter, it's like you accept all the criticism. Like, yes, I know, I'm sorry. I'll go back. I'll get you what you want, and then you go back to the chef. So as a recruiter, you take the brunt of the criticism.
Yeah.
That's part of the job, right? That's what we do. But you try to deliver the best product you can, and if sometimes you fall short, So you go back and do it again. But that's how it is with the CVs. We as recruiters do well. The good recruiters will try to push back if they can on some of the things and ask the right questions. And that's where I think so. Part of it, is finding a recruiter. If you're in the Salesforce ecosystem, finding a recruiter that knows Salesforce. I know it's not a job requirement that you need to know Salesforce to be a recruiter, but for me, it allowed being certified. It allowed me to have better conversations with hiring managers on what they were really looking for, because we could kind of peel it back a little bit, and then it also let me have better conversations with candidates. I've written a couple of triggers that are probably pretty awful, very basic stuff. But I've written a trigger. I know what a trigger is. I know what a test class is. So I can at least have somewhat of a discussion with the developer to find out, are they a good, a decent developer? Do they know what they're talking about? I don't know everything that goes on with it, but I know a little bit. So I think if you can find a recruiter, Salesforce recruiter that knows what they're talking about, so it's not just a recruiter banging off questions and asking you what you know about profiles and roles and custom objects. Ask the recruiter. It's like, well, what do you know? Can you tell me about this? Because they may or may not be someone you want to work with if they don't know
Sure.
about the platform.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. Like, I think we'll dig a little deeper around what you should look for in your recruiter and the kind of questions you should ask. But just on the job spec
Mhm.
side of things, I think you mentioned something that's really important. Like, it's very, very rare that you'll find a candidate that ticks 100% of the boxes. Um, but I think that also, like, although we're saying, look, you shouldn't only be looking on job boards, I also think if you are on job boards, you shouldn't be ruling out roles just because you don't tick a couple of the boxes, because no one ticks everything. Like, I've seen examples of like, I'll have a role from one of my clients and I'll reach out to a candidate about the role and they'll say, oh, I saw that role advertised already, but I didn't actually tick, you know, 3 of the boxes, so I didn't apply. But then with my knowledge of actually what the customer really needs and how much of that job spec is a wish list, I've been able to explain that they are actually right for the role. And in some cases, I've seen examples where that person then got the role when we've supported them through that process. So yeah, I think don't rule roles out just because you can't do everything on the job spec. But I also advise, if you're an administrator, don't apply for a developer role just because it's got Salesforce at the beginning. Make sure you're kind of strategic around what you're applying for. And then this is another message I've shared multiple times, but like, it's not in your best interest to apply for a role through multiple sources. Like, I think a lot of people think that if they've applied for the role online and then a recruiter calls them about the same role, they're doubling their chances of getting the job. And actually, it's not, and it can cause more harm than good if you're applying through multiple sources. Is that what you've seen?
So I would say yes. So, and I've dealt with that as well, where so we'll have, so let's say there's a developer job that's posted, so it's on the company website, and then the hiring manager or the company's also reached out to my recruiting firm, and they've also reached out to 2 or 3 other recruiting firms. So the candidate applies directly through the website. They talk to me, and then they get sent in like 3 different times. So that doesn't increase your chances of getting the job. You don't have 3 times the chances of getting the job. So it's in that situation, in my experience. So it's best to go with pick a recruiter. Pick one that you like for this particular position. I mean, and because if you're a job seeker, and even if you're not a job seeker, you should have a relationship, I think, with a couple of different recruiters or recruiting companies that are in your network, so you can have those conversations. Because I can guarantee you, so no one saw the global pandemic coming. So people that were happily employed, 6, 7 months ago, are now looking for jobs. And there's lots of people. So you said you get all these messages. Hey Ben, hey Ben, hey Ben. Um, and that's a lot of that is noise. But if someone that you've talked to and you've built a relationship with, and they a candidate that has just had a quick chat, couple emails, so you've sent them a message, let's say last July, and they're like, hey, just want to check out with check in, see how you're doing. Hey Ben, things are going great. I'm not really looking for a position right now, but if I do, you'll be the first person that I call. So maintain those relationships with recruiters. I'm not saying you have to be best friends with the recruiters, but have them in your network, just like you like to have people in different companies and like in positions where you want to be. Maintain those, keep those relationships warm with the recruiter because they may have access to jobs that you don't. So I know when I was recruiting, I would send in candidates directly to the hiring manager, book them into the hiring manager's calendar. And if they accepted the meeting, then if they accepted the invite, then the interview was confirmed and set. But a lot of the times, if you're just applying to the job boards, then you've got to go through the HR folks. You may or may not make it through ATS, since you're just going to get screened out by a computer. But the recruiting, the external recruiters that I did, we had that relationship. I had the back and forth communication with the hiring manager, emails, phone calls. I had that direct line of communication with the hiring manager. Whereas if you're applying through a job board, maybe not. That's not to say you can't get a job through a job board, but I would say there's nothing wrong with having 3 to 5 recruiters in your network that you maintain some level of communication with on a semi-frequent basis.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, if anything goes wrong, like you want someone, and not just in a job search, but like in any walk of life, if something breaks at home, you want to know who can fix it, and you want them at the other end of a phone line, right? So I think a recruiter is, hopefully, if you're happy in your job, you never have to use a recruiter, but at times they'll know enough about you to bring you opportunities that you really don't want to turn down as well. So just having an open line of communication with a couple of people does no harm. We've got a couple of comments coming through. Sean Shields has asked, so job specs, do you think that there is not enough translation between the HRPD and how you advertise a role to attract people to your company? I put up a post about this last week. I think like HR job descriptions are terrible. Like they're written in a way that it's trying to stop people applying rather than attracting people to apply. Like if you don't have 5 years experience, we won't be calling you back for this role isn't a way to attract someone to come and join your company. A lot of the time as a business, we will rewrite a job description. We won't use the one that the company have written. We'll rewrite it. We'll send it to the hiring manager and get him or her to approve it and give us the permission to use that to attract people, because a lot of the HR ones that we see are just terrible. And we've got another comment. I can't see who that's from, but it says, as a recruiter, why not do the same thing as a waiter? Put through a menu of jobs with skill sets, etc., to the hiring manager. And I think this is a really good point, because actually to give some insight into what a recruiter does, and we'll dig a bit deeper here. And this is how kind of working with a recruiter, you need to put them on the back foot as well at times, right? Because a recruiter can't send 10 CVs to a client, because if they do, then they're not adding value.
Absolutely.
Like a good recruiter should only be sending 2 or 3, CVs to a job. So if they've spoken to 15 people about that job, they have to, and 15 people are interested, they then have to kind of make a decision as to which 3 are the best people for that job. So I think as a job seeker, put that question back to the recruiter and don't tell them why you're good for the job. Obviously do that at the beginning and say, look, I can do this, I can do that. These are my achievements and this is why I think I'm right. But then at the end of the conversation, say to them, why do you think that I'm one of the best candidates for this role? Or why do you think your client is going to like me for this job? Because if they can't tell you that, how can they sell you to the client?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and you're exactly right. So so that's one of the things that we've had to do is, let's say I've got a job, I've got 15 people that I think are good for the job, and then I have to whittle it down. Like I could not turn to my recruiting manager and say, I think these 15 people are good for the job. And then I could only say, hey, I think actually for each person, so let's say 15 people, I would probably only take to them 5 or 6, and I'd say, hey, boss, this is why I think this person is good. This is why I think this person is good. And then, my recruiting manager obviously has more experience than me, and knows the questions. So we do a little bit of role playing. So they ask me the questions that the hiring manager is going to ask, so we kind of whittle it down. Like, well, no, this person's not going to work for that. I don't think that's good for this. And then they'll ask me, did you ask them about this? No, I didn't ask them. Okay, we need to go back and ask them that question. So it's not just sometimes it's a back and forth with the recruiter, and they'll come back and ask you, hey, what about this, or do you have any experience, um, you know, classic lightning migrations? Tell me, give me more information about what you did on the project with the classic lightning migration. Was you really technical and hands on? Because that's what this project or this job entails. It's a matter of like whittling it down. And you're right. So if I'm not doing my job as a recruiter, and if I don't find the best candidates, and then if you have a reputation for sending up 10 CVs for one job, then the hiring manager is not going to want to work with you because you're not doing your job as a recruiter on providing them the best candidates. On the flip side, though, if you do consistently provide them extremely strong candidates, and then so we'll send up 3 to 6 candidates for a job, and they'll interview them all, and they'll say, Roger, this person was really great. However, they were a little light on this. Okay, and then this person was great. However, here, I love this guy. Please, this is the one we need to go with. So all 6 of them aren't going to get the job, but as long as the recruiter sends them quality candidates, then the recruiter establishes a reputation of sending them quality candidates. And if your name, if you happen to be one of those quality candidates, then it's a good thing. And then so they'll remember you. Like I still remember even the candidates that didn't get a position. I remember them because they were strong candidates. They interviewed well, and for one reason or another, just didn't have 1 or 2 different things. But when I got another similar position come down at a different company, they were the first ones I called.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of questions that are coming through here. So Benjamin Chen. So how do you increase your chances of finding a job through a job board? There are so many variables in this. Like the person that's looking, the person receiving the CV at the other end of the job board has to be well informed on what they're looking for, which is something that you can't control. So if you are the perfect candidate, but you've applied for a role and there's 300 other applicants, like by the time the person gets to your CV, they might have already found someone that they've progressed with. They may not know really what they're looking for. They might just be looking for buzzwords. And in that case, you need a really well-written CV that actually really targets the job that you've applied for. Like job boards are, for me, they're just a tough way to secure a role. And I think people do all the time get jobs through job boards, but there's always going to be more than one applicant for a job, and you just have to fight your way to the top, unfortunately. And I think I would always follow up with an application with a call and make sure that you're putting your best foot forward in that sense as well.
Yeah, and I mean absolutely, and that's why when I talked about before, like the spray and pray, the job boards, because it's the most impersonal way of doing it. So back to the dating analogy, right? So if you walk into a pub and there's like 200 people there, there's your job board, and you want to connect with the hiring manager, but there's all these other people, and even if the hiring manager, if they talk to you for like 2 seconds as you're getting a drink, they're not going to remember you because there's so many other people around. But if you know someone there, so let's say you happen to be friends with a friend of hers who does the mutual introduction, right, the referral, and then now you're a little bit more memorable. One, you're trusted because you were referred to by somebody, and then so that kind of moves you up in the stack. But if I knew how to get how to increase the increased success off a job board, wow, like I could bottle that and sell it and be a millionaire. But I don't. I mean, I think like you said, it depends on who's posting the job, what they're looking for. The job may be posted just as a legal requirement, and they may already have someone internally tapped to fill the position, and they're just posting it out there to meet regulatory requirements. These are just things you just don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's not just internal. That the hiring manager might already know someone that they already want to hire, but the HR process is to advertise the role as well. So yeah, you're always on the back foot because you're not having an in-person conversation, whether that's on the phone or face to face. The only thing I would say that can improve your chances is having a well-written CV. And I think, like, if you look at on our website, I've put some posts up recently around. I think people focus too much on responsibilities in their CV. I think, like, if you just list every responsibility you have, then it looks like a job description, right? And
Right.
no one enjoys reading these job descriptions where it says, work with process builder, gather requirements, test, just like bullet points around what someone is expected to do in the role. Like ultimately, every Salesforce administrator, as an example, it should be able to do configuration, right, in their role. Most of them, 99%, the odd one won't have configuration abilities, and that will get done by an offshore team or something like that. But so if you're just listing all of the tasks that an administrator does in your CV, then every CV is going to look the same because everyone else does that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can focus on actually what did you achieve in that role? So what did that process builder actually do for the business? The automation that you created, what did that mean for the business? How many hours did that save? How many extra sales did that enable people to make? Like focusing on what you've achieved in that role rather than just what you did would make your CV stand out over 99% of the other candidates that are just putting responsibilities on their CV.
Yeah, I agree, and I'll admit my CV is not, I'm not 100%. If you look at the bullets on my CV right now, they don't address what impact did I have. So no one's perfect on it, but really it's kind of you need to focus on so the what you did is great, but I had a boss when I was transitioning into the military. He challenged me to write, so after each one of your bullets, write so what with a question mark. Like what impact did it have? What business value did it provide? So worked with custom objects, automated processes, and supported users. Data management. Okay, I can copy and paste that off of an admin job description off of anything. Like so what? So I automated lead generation process for internal sales team, reducing lead conversion time by 15 hours, 27%. And then you may or may not know the exact metrics, but it's if you add something in there like the so what, like what was the impact. And that same boss challenged me to just to have job bullets in respect to people, time, and money. Did you help people? Did you what did you do to impact people? Did you save them? Did you save time? Did you reduce operational processes, or did you save the company money? Because those are three metrics that are generally pretty easy to measure. So like you said, it's not people don't really care what you do. All admins have the same general tasks and the same general responsibilities. But what impact did you have at that company? Because that would hopefully translate into what impact you're going to have at the target company that you're interviewing at. And it could probably lead to a little bit better of a discussion during the interview when it's when the hiring manager says, well, it says here that by whatever they created such and such custom objects and use Flow Builder to reduce processing time by 27%. Tell me a little bit more about that. Then you can kind of tell a little bit better of a story of what you did for that specific project. Because now it's like you did the work; it's already done, and you're just telling them a better story of, well, I did this and I did that, and you can kind of unpack the story and give them a little bit more details on what you did. And then so you can sprinkle in, well, I was part of the team. I worked with the BAs, worked with the developers, and we sat back and I did this during UAT. So you can kind of fill in some of the gaps, or fill in some of the holes, and kind of give them an idea of, what kind of a person you are on a team, because that's they're going to work with you, so they need to know, is this person a team player? Do they collaborate well, or do they not?
Yeah, absolutely. Livia, asking any tips for starters without experience. Like, I think my comment on the Salesforce market is it's tough. Like it's tough to get your first job, and I think Salesforce create a lot of opportunity. We've all seen the stats around how many millions of jobs are being created, but I'm sure they are creating lots of opportunity. But that isn't helping new entrants. Like of all the roles we fill on an annual basis, a very small percent are for people without experience. And my honest feedback on this point is that your first role in Salesforce probably isn't going to come through a recruiter, an external recruiter.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I could count probably on two hands how many people I've placed with less than 12 months Salesforce experience. I'd love to place more, but unfortunately, clients don't come to me and say I'm looking for someone with, very little Salesforce experience. They come to me and look for someone with lots of experience, or a certain level of experience. So to your point, Olivia, I think the lady I mentioned earlier, Pooja Ramesha, I think you have to create your own experience, you have to create your own brand, and you have to put yourself out there, and it takes grit and determination to secure your first role, and it takes grit and determination to secure your second role. And it's really, for me, it's only certain skill sets right now that have the gravy train of lots and lots of opportunity. There are a lot of roles out there where there are more candidates than opportunities. So yeah, I think following Pooja's example and creating your own work, and reaching out to people and building your own brand and community is really the only way that you can get your first opportunity, and build from there. And that's similar to what you found, right, Roger, in terms of gaining exposure yourself. You were reaching out to people and asking for coffees and so on.
Right. So just to to build upon what the advice that you gave, Ben. So I would say, I see so Anthony on there mentions like Trailhead. So Trailhead is good. It's a great learning tool, and for someone who doesn't have a job, Trailhead it's what you have, right? So make the best of it. And I know there's a relatively new badge that they added on there, or showcasing your portfolio. So that's something you can do, doing the super badges. So I put up a post, I think it was yesterday, about where I hit my 500th badge, because I'm not currently working as a Salesforce admin, but I need to, it shows that I have, like you said, right, has the dedication and the grit to get in there, to get on Trailhead every day, and just start chipping away at it, because I posted on there, and I think currently I'm sitting at like 11,000 views, which I think is phenomenal. It's great. That means 11,000 people, most of them I don't know, have seen the post that I've got 500 badges, which may or may not be phenomenal. I mean, it's a good number. I'm proud of it, but it shows that I can do the work. I put in my own time to get it done. And another thing, so I would say for Livia, so one of the I would say unintended benefits of the pandemic is that a lot of the community events have gone virtual. So you can sit in on almost any admin or dev user group in the world, via Zoom. So I know I regularly attend the Austin admin user groups, and most recently they had Steve Moles. Not recently, I think like last month, and this month they had Jen Lee. So it's an opportunity for you to go. So I would say, I would recommend, if you don't have experience, start going to community events like admin user groups, Salesforce Saturdays, and getting exposure, or to either learn about something that you're interested in. If you're interested in Einstein analytics, then find the user groups, start following people that are Einstein champions, and start commenting and connecting with them. If they speak at an admin user group meeting, then follow up with, send them a LinkedIn message or a comment, send them a message. Hey, I loved your presentation last night that you gave on Einstein analytics and how you're using it. I'm new in the ecosystem. What advice would you have for someone trying to break into the ecosystem, and also has a passion for Einstein analytics? I can almost guarantee you're going to get a response back on that message. They have absolutely no idea who you are, but you attended their virtual presentation, and you obviously listened to it, and then you're reaching out to them like, hey, look, you are expert in the field. I value your opinion and your advice. What advice do you have to give? Because everyone started somewhere. So even Salesforce MVPs, anyone started out not knowing anything.
Yeah.
But they put the work in and they got there. And if you just reach out from a place of humility and gratitude, and say, hey, I am. This is where I am. I want to be where you are. What advice do you have? I mean, it's a hard message to turn down.
And just on your point about the post you put up yesterday or the day before, like, so you have 11,000 views on that, right?
Mhm.
But that isn't an overnight thing, right? So the reason you have 11,000 views on that post is because you've posted a lot in the past.
Yeah.
Like the very first post you put out about looking for a Salesforce role, or whatever your first post was, didn't get 11,000 views. And I think that stops people from like, everyone thinks, oh, I'm not getting any engagement on this, or no one's interested in what I'm posting, or this isn't going to help me because no one's going to like it or comment. And I think it's being always turning up, right? You can't put one post up and then expect 11,000 people to view it. But if you're consistent and that you create content that people are engaging with, like, even if it's small numbers, it's just building, and it's building your brand, and it's building other people's understanding of you. And then you get to a point where you are getting lots of views, and then hopefully something comes out of that can benefit your career.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I remember, I had a conversation when I was transitioning out with a mentor of mine that was one of my past bosses in the military, and I asked him, like, what do I need to start doing now? And he said, you need more LinkedIn followers. You need more LinkedIn connections. I had like 130 at the time. And LinkedIn is not the end all be all, but especially given where we are now, with the everything going virtual, and you can't get together for a cup of coffee with someone right now, nowadays. But you can get together on a Zoom call, and you can both share coffee, and you can do that anywhere in the world. So right now you're in Australia, it's early in the morning, and I'm here in Texas, and it's nighttime. So it can be, it can be done. If I want to, if you're going to reach out, to folks in Australia, reach out to, someone there. Like, they want to contact me. It's like, hey, let's get together. You're having coffee. I'm having a cocktail, but we're still talking and sharing advice. So I mean, there's opportunities there for for people to connect, to engage with each other, especially on LinkedIn. And you're right, it takes time. It does take time. I've put up posts, and that when I hit send, I'm like, yes, that was the best post ever, and it gets like 200 comments, and I'm just like, what happened? I'm super angry that the LinkedIn algorithm trashed my war and peace that I just posted. But it just sometimes it's good, sometimes it's trash, but you got to keep going back.
You'd be happy with 200 comments. I think you mean 200 views.
Oh yeah, 200 views. Yeah,
yeah.
I've never had a post with that 200 comments.
Yeah. We've got a comment from Mara saying, if I have admin and developer skills but no experience, which is better for pursuing your first Salesforce job? Are devs more in demand? Like, I get questions all the time from people that like are completely non-technical, and they'll come to me and they'll say, look, I hear the development market's really, really busy. Should I become a developer? But my honest answer to you, Mara, is do what you prefer. Like, if you prefer doing configuration and you feel that's where your skills are best, then go down that route. But if you see yourself as a developer, then go down that route. Like, I think you have to be passionate about the work that you do, and also be really interested in it, because otherwise you won't be your best version of that skill set. People come to me and say, oh, which certifications are in demand? But there's no point in doing a Sales Cloud certification if you work in government and want to stay in government and everything's Service Cloud, right? You have to do what's going to benefit your career, not just like be more in demand or popular in the market. Because if you don't want to go out of the industry you're in, then focus on the skills that are going to be most in demand in that area. And yeah, to get a developer job, you have to be a good developer, right? So it's not just, can I write a line of Apex code and then I'm going to become a developer? Like, you have to be a good developer. Therefore, you have to be passionate and be willing to put in the hours and graft to get there. So yeah, I think you mentioned that you've done some trigger work and what test classes are, Roger. But would you ever go down the development path just because there's more development roles?
No, I mean, even if you look at the salaries, right? So if you look at the salaries for developers versus salaries versus admins, and then the ratio of open developer jobs versus open admin jobs, then it's almost, if you look at the numbers, it's almost a no-brainer. It's like, oh, I should go be a developer because there's more money there. Chances are there's more, you can do it remote, and there are a lot more jobs. So developers are a hot commodity, especially good developers. But I would be a terrible developer. just because I took a Java programming course in college. I wasn't that good, uh, so and I know like my nature, like I would probably be okay, but it would take me a lot of work to become a good developer. And I could be passionate all day about being, I love developing, but if I don't put in the work and I don't have the skills, and if you're not going to be, if I'm not a good developer, then I'm not really going to get good developer jobs. And it's hard. So if you don't have experience, so I would say, choose what you want to, what do you want to do? Of course, there's admin developer, and then there's the admin developer kind of hybrid position there. So what are you going to be happier in doing when you're waking up and doing day in and day out? If it's admin configuration work, then that's great. If you want to be a developer and you love love the challenge of writing code and the beauty of that, then whichever one you choose, I would say be the best version of Lara, um, that you can. If you be the best developer you can, so do the work. Get those skills, and it's hard to do it if you don't have experience. But you can. Building something out in your own dev work. Writing your own code, and testing things, and doing things, and just kind of pushing yourself. So it's kind of, let's say, like Olympic athletes. There's people that come that are born in extremely impoverished countries, and they just practice a lot. They don't have anything, but they practice, and every day, or putting in the work and building up the skills and building up the skills, to eventually get good enough to get noticed, where they say, hey, this person has the skills and has some talent, and then you get picked up by a company, and then you can kind of really sharpen your craft, and you just keep getting better and better. So what got you there will get you even further.
Absolutely. But one thing, just Mara, on that point is, a really good developer will know the admin side of things too. So, there's no harm in learning that. In fact, it would be beneficial. But in terms of which kind of career path to go down, I guess only you can answer that based on really what you enjoy and what you want to do. So yeah, I think we've hit the hour mark. So thank you so much for that, Roger. Really enjoyed the chat. Hopefully, we've provided some good value there for the people listening and watching. And hopefully, if people do have questions, reach out, ask myself, ask Roger, and we'll do our best to come back to you. And if you're not connected to either of us on LinkedIn, please do. And yeah, hopefully we can help in any way.
Yeah, absolutely. And so don't just send me a blind message or blind connection request. Send me a message. Say, hey, heard you on the LinkedIn, on the LinkedIn Live with Ben, and then I will accept your connection request, because kind of like Ben said, right? Just you get these connection requests. I'm like, who are you? Why are you sending me a connection request? And if you took the time, so if you took the time to listen to this LinkedIn Live event, and then reached out to me and said, hey, I heard you on LinkedIn Live, love your advice, or whatever, hated your advice, I think you're the worst, let's connect. That's fine too. But at least I know you personalized the message and told me I'm terrible. But that's fine. We can connect and have a discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I will do after this, I'll make a post that shares the link to Pooja's work, the Medium blog where she wrote, she kind of showcased the work she did, because I really do think that's a great way to go about your job search. And that completely removed the recruiter out of the process, and it enabled a hiring manager to connect with her directly and offer her a role based on some kind of a case study of the work that she's capable of doing. So yeah, I'll share that. Roger, thanks so much. Keep in touch, and all the best with your job search as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, everybody else.
Thank you, guys.